It's finally happened. A post 1.5.3 FAQ game where I get to use Wardancers and get to bring the Wood Elves in all their post FAQ buff glory. And it's been a while. Apologies that the last couple of games that I've uploaded have been pre FAQ. I have been dying to play more post FAQ games, and yeah, this is the one I've gotten recorded so far. I'm playing another game tomorrow, which I'll hopefully be able to get up next week. I've been aiming for about a video a week, so yeah, this will hopefully then be the start of a nice consistent stream of post FAQ Wood Elf games, starting with this one, a 2000 point battle against Orcs and Goblins. So hello again and welcome back to the channel. My name's Dylan. I love Wood Elves and I'm trying to get better at them. If this is your first time watching me and watching these videos, basically what I'm going to do is going to bring you through a game that I played in kind of step by step, bring you through what my list is, what my opponent's list is, and basically where I went wrong, what I did well, although there's often more things I've done wrong, in an attempt for me to improve my game and share my learnings and my findings with you as a player so you can also improve your game if that's something that you're interested in. Of course, if you're just interested in generally watching Warhammer Old World be played, then join in, grab yourself a drink, have some fun, settle in. We're in for a good game. And yeah, as always, please do, if you spot any rules that I've gotten wrong or anything that you think is a misplay by either me or my opponents, because I also think there's a lot of merit in analyzing your opponent's game and seeing, what they could maybe have done better, or even just calling out what was a particularly good move. I think that's always nice. And yeah, so please do leave a comment down below if there's any notable things that you think warrant commenting on. Always love to read them, always love to see a different viewpoint from the game. I've actually taken a lot of tips and tricks, particularly around my army list composition, from comments in the past. So really like reading your comments and learning about different approaches and different thoughts and ways to play the game. So with all that said, let's get cracking. I played a 2000 point battle down in Ferns, down in, I think Ferns is in Waterford? I actually don't know. I probably should have checked this before I started talking. Oh well, as part of the Eastern Fringe wargaming group, I played a very nice, enjoyable game against my opponent Sean, who was bringing Orcs and Goblins, the Greenskins matchup, which, yeah, there's a lot of Greenskins players around Ireland actually, and I like it. It's a quite a different army than Wood Elves, so it's a fun matchup, I think. There are some things that I and Wood Elves play very well into, and there's also some things that are just very hard to play against. Doom Divers, we'll get into that. But yeah, let's have a look first at seeing what list I brought. Obviously, as I said in the intro, this is a post FAQ game, so I was very excited to be playing with the new toys. Now, that said, I don't actually have a lot of the new toys. I have, I think, 4 orders that I've been waiting on. Two of them actually from back from May. I ordered from Last Sword Miniatures, who are great. They've done my dragon, which I love, and a few other of the models that I have in my army. And yeah, they've got quite a big backlog. So hopefully, come now this month in August, I should be getting them in. I've ordered some from Holo Miniatures, which have been great. And then I've ordered a few of the Highland Miniatures models too. So I have a lot of Treekin on the way. I've got a load of Wardancers on the way. I've got a few Warhawk Riders. I think I predicted all of the FAQ changes, to be honest, in what I was buying, because I just wanted a wider variety of models to play with and to paint, as all of the models I have now are painted, which is an insane flex, I know. It's also not true. There's probably a few there. I've got a load of Dryads that I haven't painted, so Yeah, no, I'm a liar. I do have a great pile of shame, like we all do. But let's talk about what I actually did bring and not what I may or may not take in the future. So, of course, I brought a dragon again. I just think, one, isn't this dragon cool? It's a cool. This is the last sword miniature I was talking about. It's a really nice model. I really, really like it. And yeah, you can see here I've actually, in my last games, I didn't have an actual character. Now the character, she's in there. So I've added that onto it. And yeah, I've changed up my loadout for my dragon now a bit, which I hadn't been, which I've been kind of like using the giant blade for a while. And in my last video, I think I talked about it where it was struggling too much to get through anything with high armor. And it was, it, it was trying to do too many things. And I think the idea originally with the giant blade was that I could take on big monsters and use the fact that it has multiple wounds to kind of chew through it. However, now that I've got Fury of Ateloran as a mainstay in my list, aka, well, sorry, now that I've got the Lore of the Wilds in my list as a mainstay that has the Fury of Ateloran, I can more reliably take down these multi-wound uh, creatures and monsters and things like that. So I'm a little more okay to rely on just the Great Weapon. And instead now I've gone with the Armor of Destiny for that 4+ ward save. Basically, this means that I can be a little bit more relaxed about how I play him. I can put the dragon into a variety of different things and not just character snipe and go for the challenges. I am still using the aspect of the cat, so I do still get the rerolls in a challenge. So when I do go for that challenge, I do get a bit more oomph out of it. However, I'm no longer using the annoyance of netlings, so I am being hit usually on 4s, but I think the 4-up ward save makes up for that. So I am very happy with this. The True Flight Arrows is purely because I had 3 points left over. So yeah. Then the 4-hawk is dead. Long live the tree horse, I guess. Which as an Irish person is an unintentional double entendre as a tree horse. But yeah, I am using a level 3 instead, Spellweaver on an Elven steed. The idea is that she will go in here with the Glade Riders with reserve move. So if you look at the last video I put out, I really liked reserve move on the Warhawk, but after playing in the 1K tournament as well and having this a very similar loadout to this, I really, really just reserve move is super good. I'm able to go in, blast with magic missiles, and then get out of range is really, really good. So I really like that, and it just saves a bit more points, which I have basically put into putting a power scroll on her, taking the lore familiar, and then the Heartwood Pendant, obviously for Lore of the Wilds. Basically, this means that I am guaranteed to get the 3 spells that I need, with Ruby Ring of Ruin and Fireball acting as my 4th spell. I do think that they're realistically, I pretty much always want Fury of Ateloran for that big magic missile, and then Aerial's Blessing as a 5-up ward save or 5-up regen, whichever one it is also really, really nice. So then I think the other spell, the third spell, is quite situational. There is an option for having Dirthu's Wrath and, against some matchups, and then having the option for Sapping Blight if I need that, or Spiteful Torrent if I'm coming against big blocks and I need to control the battlefield a bit more with a Magical Vortex. So yeah, I really, really like this loadout. I don't think I'll be changing this loadout at all. In fact, I think these two lords are going to be my mainstays from now on. I maybe I'll change something around the dragon, but I do think having this 4+ ward is really nice. Effectively, it means I've got 18 wounds, right? Because you save every other wound that comes through. So it just gives them a lot more oomph, and it protects 500 points from your opponent, 600 because he's my general, right? I then went and tried the Waystalker with the Sword of Sorrow and a Resplendence of Luminescence. Now, I don't really need the Resplendence of Luminescence to give magical attacks in this against this opponent. However, I am trying to practice for a tournament, so I was trying to build this as if it was a list I was bringing to a tournament, and having the option to be able to put that in to give my Way Watchers magical attacks is pretty good, but really it doesn't come up that often. And I just wanted to really try the Sword of Sorrow against characters. We have to snipe them out. I think it's pretty good on paper. Didn't really get a whole lot of use and chances to use it this game. It did get a character, but you know, I'm not yet sold on it. And in fact, I don't think I'm gonna try. I might try it once more just to give it a go, but I'm already leaning towards a slightly different approach with this. Then for my core, a very kind of standard core that I've been using for a while. 7 Glade Riders, reserve move, banner that gives them quick shot and full command, and then 16 Glade Guard with the banner to give them ignores cover. Both of them have arcane bodkins. And then a different change, one which I like in theory. I do need a little bit more practice with it to see how it actually plays out. But 5 Glade Riders with Swift Shiver Shards and Ambushers. So the idea here is I've often found that against more kind of like gun-liney armies or things like that, I want to be able to get into the back line to be able to take down war machines or just kind of like pressure wizard bunkers, things like that. The idea is that they come on with ambushers and then are able to take 10 shots and maybe just plink a few wounds off a war machine, something like that. Obviously, they can't charge the first turn they come in as an ambusher. So just throwing out a load of shots is perhaps worth it. I'm not convinced. This could probably just be the True Flight arrows instead, or maybe just stick to good old arcane bodkins. Although typically I think anything that's left in the back line is probably not defended in terms of probably doesn't have heavy armor or anything like that. So I think True Flight arrows is probably fine. I think right now this core comes to about 502. So if I just put a champion in here and True Flight arrows, I get to my points just as good. I then, of course, try to take Wardancers, and I say try because, well, you'll see. I think 14 is a decent amount to take. I have been theorizing around the idea of doing a Death Star of Wardancers, doing something like having 2 Wardancers or Shadow Dancers in there to, get glittering robes off, to have the Monsters Hunter Tapestry or the Banner of Swirling Wind, something like that to really shut down any shooting, as well as then you're able to put the Ariel's Blessing on one of the Shadow Dancers and maybe the Oaken Stave on the other. Put it up, give it cover from your wood, have the Shadow Dancer be able to dispel quite well, because a level 1 Oaken Stave is better at dispelling than a level 3 or 4, without it. And then going to something like 21 War Dancers or like 19 or 20. I'm not against that idea, and I do think I want to try that because I think it will be fun and interesting. But for now, I just went for 14 War Dancers. I also don't have any war. I have a couple of War Dancers that I actually had for my High Elf army that I wanted to use as like big unit fillers. But yeah, I'm limited on models, so I just brought 14 and used some proxies, and yeah, just kind of give that a go. Half of them with throwing spears, half with additional hand weapons. So on the charge, the idea is that these guys get the charge, and that is 7 attacks from the throwing spears, and then you'll get 21 attacks from the front rank. Sorry, 22 with the Blade Singer. So that is like 30 attacks on the charge. That's pretty spicy. So yeah, really want to. I think there's a lot of play in this that needs more experimentation, to be honest. I might even try to get some games online just to try to get some in. Then I went for just a small unit of Wild Riders. The idea here is that they can play a flanking role or a a wing clearance role. So put them on the side and they can just kind of go up and charge through. Perfect opportunity to take out chaff. They're only 111 points. They're essentially chaff themselves. I hit like a truck. So that's the idea with them. I didn't end up going in the center, or ended up going in the center with these rather than the flanks, but we'll talk about that in a second. Then I had a Great Eagle, a Wood Elf Beast Pack with 2 Deepwood Hounds. I don't know what the local meta is like with accepting only 1 Deepwood Hound and still being able to move the 9 inches, so I need to check with the TO about that, because obviously that would be great. Saves 9 points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it means you can get 3 beast packs for the price of 1 eagle, which is pretty good. Just gets a lot of chaff. Means you can really put your Wardancers where you want, your Wall Riders where you want, and kind of get those favorable matchups. So I do think that's worthwhile. I do still like the eagle. I think Fly is just really, really good at being able to chase things down and, maneuver around things. And then I went with the Way Watchers. So this is another reason why I would usually go with Deepwood Scouts, and I went instead with the Ambushers here because I already had a unit of scouting archers. I like Way Watchers. I don't know that they did a whole lot more for me than Deepwood Scouts, but yeah, I don't know. I'm undecided on them, basically. So what I was facing then with my opponent was a Black Orc War Boss on a Wyvern. Hit the Troll High Trousers, Talisman of Protection for that 5/5, and then the Ed Button Nat, which honestly, no idea what it does. um, he then had a Orc War Boss as a Battle Standard Bearer, which you can just about see in here, I think. The Dead Art Armor giving him +1 toughness. A Night Goblin Big Boss, which is in the Night Goblins here with Wallop as 1-hit wonder. An Orc Weird Knob, it's level 3 with Battle Magic and the Glowy Green Amulet. And then a Night Goblin with the Staff of Badoom, which is a really nasty magic item. I really like it. It's very good. And then the Ruby Ring of Ruin, of course, as well. And he was using WoW magic. We then had a brick of 22 Black Orcs, half of them are great weapons, half of them shields. The big red Raggedy Flag in there as well. And then 32 Night Goblins with hand weapon shields, netters, and then 3 Fanatics. So, and also the War Banner. So a lot of potential combat res in that. Then he had 7 Squig Hoppers, 2 Mangler Squigs, and 2 Doom Diver Catapults. So, like, a pretty, not a soft list by any means. 2 Doom Divers is pretty rough. 2 Mangler Squigs could do a lot of damage. And then, of course, Fanatics are just kind of are rough to deal with as well. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to not see warbows on the orcs because, of course, I hate facing ballistic skill shooting because it is my absolute enemy. So my thoughts beforehand is that the dragon versus the wyvern is a very good matchup for me. Is it wyvern or wyvern? Whatever. I'm going to use both interchangeably. Sue me. That's a good matchup for me. I think that I can break through that pretty good. Even with the 5/5, I think I'm just the stats are on my side here. So if I can get that in, great. Don't really want to be going into his big bricks. So that was kind of like my main thing. I don't want to go up against those Mangler Squigs because they are good shooting targets. The fact that he had like no shooting meant that I was thinking I can play pretty defensively. He's got to come to me. He obviously has war machines and a lot of magic missiles, but I do think that I am pressuring him with the level of shooting that I have, which is good. I've got my ambushers and flyers and maneuverable fast things to take on the war machines. That would be the idea. I need to be wary of the fanatics. Of course, they are pretty nasty. So trying to slow things down if possible. I've got 2 Traffians for that. I brought Spiteful Torrent, so I can bring I can put that in front of them just to try and it acts as difficult terrain as well, so it would affect the fanatics and also just slow the goblins down. And then really just shoot the mangler squigs and the squig hoppers. They were going to be my main target. So I think I had a lot of answers to a lot of the problems that were presented to me. We just played pitch battle. We had 3 strategic objectives, and we had baggage trains. But of note, we were playing on a smaller board. We weren't playing on the typical 6x4, and this was an issue that we'll get into now for me. We were just playing it down, as I said at the start, in in a games day in the club, which is really really nice. But we kind of just like, there was a bigger board available to us, but it was in my opponent Sean, which I'm gonna take a moment right now to say hello, Sean. How's it going? Hope you're well. Had a great game. Hope you did too. Can't wait for the rematch. My opponent was Sean. He was really, 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 really great guy. Had a great time playing against him. He had a bigger table that he could have brought, but this was available to us, and we're like, it's just a friendly game. Let's just throw it down. Let's just get playing. That's why we're here, right? And I regret everything about it. I wish I had gotten the bigger table. So on that rematch, we have to have a bigger table, okay? Because that's the only reason I lost. Spoiler alert, I lost this one. Not by much, though. And I do think the lack of a big board comes into it. And I think the reason that is so impactful for Wood Elves is that we need the maneuverability. We need the room to move. We need the room to dance around our opponents. We need that extra bit of just an extra turn of being evasive and staying out of range and stuff. Really, really is the make or break for us. So let's have a look at the board and we'll kind of see why that's so important, right? Okay, so let's talk about deployment and the map and terrain that we were playing on. So as I said, it was a little bit shorter than usual, both length or widthways and lengthways, or whatever way you want to look at that. We still played that we are 24 inches apart, so that was fine. But yeah, the width of the board was definitely the biggest downside for me. There should have been another, I think, 12 inches or so to the side. We basically just randomly scattered terrain. We both took a hill and placed it in opposite corners, and then just rolled dice to determine where each of the other bits went. This is basically treated as a low linear. We said, fuck it, we'll put it in the middle. Why not? Kind of looks cool, as if there's like 2 statues that were in the center of this battlefield that have fallen over. This was impossible terrain. This house obviously also impossible terrain, and then just a straight up forest. Wasn't particularly happy with the forest being here, as obviously it kind of puts a scupper on my plans of having my archers on this hill, which would have been nice, but you know what? You can't win them all. So yeah, deployments started like this. We had our baggage trains down basically opposite corner. He placed his Doom Divers on the obvious spot of the hill. I placed my Eagle down, and then we continued from there. I basically just kind of continued putting down chaff to where I might want to put my Wild Riders. Happy for them to kind of go on either side. The benefit for having a unit of 4 Wild Riders is realistically they could probably fit in a gap like this, which I should have considered. These will be a problem later on. And yeah, however, with both his Mangler Squigs effectively covering the flanks, I was a bit hesitant about them. And I think I'd gone in with the idea of, relying on my shooting to take them down. So I wanted that to be the case. Hence why these were here. The idea of being able to go pop in and out of the forest, and Fury of Athlorn easily being able to take down a Mangler Squig, and then the idea being that I would have other archers here, and my Way Watchers and Way Stalker to be able to take down this one. The Sword of Sorrow should be able to do a pretty good job on that. So yeah, that was my general idea, which kind of meant then that at this point I was like, "Ugh, I'm kind of reliant on being, quite central." But what I probably should have realized and acknowledged is that, well, obviously he's because this is impossible terrain, he's not it doesn't have a whole lot of space here. He's he's gonna put his big bricks somewhere here, right? Which, you know, yes, my Wild Riders are pretty punchy on the attack, but they're not going to do much. So it meant that, and then I didn't want to just put my Wardancers into either one of them because I think there's sheer numbers are going to go against me. But I do think that I could maybe have gone Wild Riders up here and push that instead. But as you can see, I went quite central with everything. Ignore the fact that these are clearly not war dancers, apart from this little one here. I put my war dancers in. I put them in open order, and honestly, I think that was like, mistake number one for me. I just, yeah, with because he had no ballistic skill shooting, I was like, you know what, it'd probably just be easier to have them open order rather than skirmishing. I know exactly where my spears will be and everything, so I don't have to faff around with that and stuff. Although I probably realized that it would have been fine, and I think my opponent would have been like, "Yeah, we'll just say that your throwing spears are in the back and your dual hand weapons are in the front." I don't think that would have been an issue. Um, because these Doom Divers, I should have just expected that they would be, looking at this with absolute hunger and delight in their eyes as they're, you know, flapping their little wings towards me, trying to crash down into me, which they did. Spoiler alert. So yeah, should have gone skirmish here, uh, and then, but it did mean that I started really kind of building centrally, you know, to go up here. When in reality, I probably, as I said, should have just moved these over here, kept these here in skirmish, and just maybe put these guys over a little bit more so they've got more of an angle, without getting, although they ignore cover, so they've got perfect angle kind of throughout all of this. But I knew that this guy was here. I could have maybe just gone here instead to get a really nice angle on him, and then move these guys over. I think that probably would have been the better move. And these guys can just act as chaff. It's fine because ending up here, I want to charge anyway. So we should have done that, and then these guys could have just been chaff to slow these ones down, which would have been fine. But yeah, look, it is what it is. His deployment, you know, pretty straightforward. He had these squig hoppers here defending his war machines, which is a good shout. I don't like that I can't stand and shoot against them, so it really kind of means I need to be wary of them. And they're pretty nasty on the charge, you know. I can't just throw my eagle in to them and hope for the best. I do think they are, yeah, pretty tough. And then finally we put down characters, and I again just kind of really committed to the center here. This was, yeah, I think a lot of this was because I really just wanted to see what these guys could do in combat. I knew they wouldn't, you know, go fully toe to toe with the Black Orcs, but I think if they are fully supported with the Dragon and with the Wild Riders, these could do a lot of damage. You know, I would get pretty much all of these guys and the Wild Riders all base to base in here, along here. So that would have been, I don't want to do the maths, but something, assuming everyone was full strength going in, something like 45 attacks, which would have been crazy. I would even be happy to use my dragon as chaff against the goblins to stop that from happening, or to enable that to happen. Um, and then I obviously have my ambushers to the side, and then I put my way watchers down here and my way stalker down. I put the way stalker separate because I was quite afraid of this guy just rolling big and getting in. And I thought, with the Sword of Sorrow, that's a good multi-wound target to go in here. Uh, but really, again, I think is around this point that I really was like, I would have loved a bigger table to work around, because as I see later on, these guys kind of just started getting a little bit cramped and not doing much of anything at all. So we rolled off for first turn, and my opponent got the pleasure of going first. And what a pleasure it was, because, yeah, as you can see, my Wardancers took the brunt of it. They took an absolute walloping from the Dune Divers. They just really got wrecked. Which, yeah, had I gotten first, I could have at least gotten Ariel's Blessing off and given them a ward save. Had they been skirmishing, I might have lost a couple of less units. But yeah, it was nasty. Then Wapsa Pillar of Fire, Foot of Gork. These two, it was a very magical vortex heavy game. And these two did a lot of work and really just kept the center of the board really, really tied up and hard to maneuver around, which not great to deal with, especially when I was obviously hoping to just go straight forward. But yeah, this is the real upset, and it really was just it was one of those like, oh yeah, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, and this was the punch in the face for me. I also took a couple of wounds from here. I think this was maybe a Doom Driver as well. And then, yeah, other than that, he kind of just moved everything up, with the exception of the Wyvern or the Wyvern, which he moves and redirects into here. Um, which, yep, solid move. Suddenly I'm feeling a lot of pressure on this flank, which is not great for me. But of course, undeterred, we fight on. And we fight on through the power of shooting the ever-loving out of things. Namely, that Mangler Squig. Bye-bye. Fury of Athaloran. Best spell in the game. I love it. You can prize Fury of Athaloran from my cold dead hands. I am using it in every single game I play from now until the end of time, or until the next edition when they change it. But yeah, lash that out, lash the Mangler Swig out of it between Fireball and some general shooting. Take a lot of the small squigs out, which is great. Probably didn't get Fireball off. I think you'd expect more wounds from Fireball, so this is probably just small arms fire. And then just reserve move a little bit back to stay away from them. To be honest, this is probably an issue. I probably was a little bit too conservative here. I probably should have stayed maybe like 16 inches away. Realistically, he's not rolling 3d6. He'd have to probably go through the woods as well, so he's only maximum 17 inches, so I'm probably fine, because I want to be able to start moving up here to get these war machines who are right now completely undefended, right? So I should have just done that. That would have been the move. And then I'm free even for a cheeky flank charge here later on if needs be, right? But instead, I played it too cautious, and just moved back. I think, had I maybe just put my eagle here instead, and baited that, and being, whatever, 12 inches away or so from him, sacrifice the eagle, but then I can then just go nine inches up, shoot, chomp, chomp, chomp. Even if I don't, I then just move 9 inches around. He probably has one or two models left. I'm probably fine. I move my wizard out of the way to be sure. And yeah. But anyway, yeah, other than that, I then just kind of move everything up. kind of just played it very, very cavalier and loose here because I knew that if I don't try get at least these three guys into action, well, then they've wasted it, right? Better to move forward and be a threat and potentially get magical vortex than just sit back and do nothing, right? Um, I then cast Spiteful Torrent here just to try and slow down the orcs to give myself a bit of that maneuvering time, and yeah, then move my dragon over here to try and just face down um what's going on here. And then I believe I did like a single wound from some shooting into the mangler squig. I don't think I did anything with the Sword of Sorrow here, and yeah, so not a whole lot. I would have liked to have done more, but hey, I got one over here, so I can't complain. Here's another here's a nice little action shot of a laser pointer being used. um you can see that my opponent charges in with the random movement of the Mangler Squigs into here. He takes a couple of Glade Riders down with the Doom Diver. The Foot of Gork goes and smashes through my Beast Pack, but my Wild Riders are unharmed, as are my Wardancers, so I'm okay with that. He then also reforms with the Wyvern to face down here. Now, I think this is maybe I don't want to say it was a misplay by well, this specifically was a misplay, which we'll see in a second. But I think if the intention was to chase these down with the Wyvern, which makes sense, that's a good move. He should have just been facing that way the entire time. He wasted a move by turning around, right? Um, so yeah, I think he probably was covered here and could have always done this, but yeah, uh, I wasn't overly concerned. I think it was pretty nasty. This random wood here is my Spiteful Torrent. I really need a good template for it. Um, but yeah, I'm starting to suffer a couple of wounds. Doom Divers is just really nasty, man. They're really nasty. But yeah, I'm still in the fight at this point. Although, yeah, really hurting. I'm really hurting from losing all my War Dancers. That was a big combat block that I was hoping to get some damage in. But we persevere, and we persevere by. Oh, sorry, this wasn't the end of the turn. This is the end of the turn. I lost even more Glade Riders, which is no bueno. Uh, and then, of course, my eagle gets chomped by the squigs. It's fine. And then I lose three three wild riders. So yeah, sorry. At this point, I'm really, really feeling the pain. This is a significant chunk of my army down. I've basically lost my main kind of combat blocks, which means I've got very little to take on. Even these guys have to resort to magic missiles for them, and being able to then take in on either of those blocks is a daunting prospect with what little I have. So yeah, how do I get myself out of this? Well, you might see that this wyvern has placed himself into a nice tasty flank charge, which I go and I take. I declare that despite being hexed, I get a couple of wounds in. Between that and the flank charge, I don't think I took any wounds myself because of the 4+ armor save or the 4+ ward save. He then breaks, which was very unlikely. Like, he broke on an 11. I, of course, charge him down, catch him, reform to face down the infantry blocks, which was really good. I also then shoot Mangler Squig, uh, which was good. And yeah, I'm not so bad. You can see the Foot of Gork here went through my Glade Guard. doing another 4 wounds, which is pretty nasty. My ambushers come on, which is great. I'm like, yeah, fantastic. This is good now because I can stop now the Doom Divers getting in. I can probably, even if I don't know if there's a world where I can charge both of them, but I will at least be able to charge one, right? I'm feeling a little bit bit better about this. I go and charge in my Wild Rider into the remainder of these guys. I go to charge my War Dancers. They basically only needed to not roll a double one. Of course, I rolled a double one because the universe hates me. And then I basically just play keep away from this pillar of fire that's running rampant with my wizard, making sure that she stays more than 6 inches away from this so that it can't scatter into her, basically. I then kind of just get a little bit jumbled up here with my Way Watchers, but I now have a lot more freedom on this flank to start maneuvering them a bit better, which is nice. However, as you can see here, the Squig Hoppers are still alive. My Wild Rider dead. Fluffed like all of his attacks, basically. I think I killed one model, so not great. And they basically just move out of the way. They did not want to get charged by the Wardancers or shot with magic missiles, so that makes sense. They weren't really doing a whole lot. He then casts Pillar of Fire just to keep my Wardancers in check. Recast the Foot of Gork here again, just as a threat. To be honest, I believe he casts something onto my Way Watchers, but I probably just evasive out of the way, and then just starts repositioning to face down the dragon and moves his wizard out, which I was very happy with because that meant I was like, okay, I'm gonna start trying to shoot him with the Waystalker because he can attack him despite him not being the closest. So yeah, I was obviously upset about losing so many models. But yeah, I think as well actually these guys wiped out the Wall Rider and then got a big movement over here against the Glade Riders, or something killed the Glade Riders anyway, which was an absolute pain in my ass. I potentially should have just kept the Glade Riders, very close to the border, away from these guys, away from shooting or magic missiles. This is easily 24 inches away, right? Or close to it. So you'd have to get close, which brings them out of position to get shot at and missiled or charged. I should have just kept them here because they're auto into this thing anyway. But yeah, I can even, I don't think I could get angle it to get an overrun. But yeah, still, I should have gotten one of these guys out. And the fact that these Doom Divers are still here after so long is not great for me. But yeah, that is my opponent's turn 3. Then on to my turn 3, I start playing super defensively with my dragon. Basically maneuvering here so that I avoid his charge arc. I should also say, sorry, he released Fanatics, which managed to do a wound. It popped through, went on the edge. The other one, I think, rolled doubles and exploded. I, in fact, even think there was another Fanatic at some point that I just shot down with my Way Watchers. And so basically, yeah, I go here. I had to march, so I couldn't get a breath weapon off. But I go here just to, start threatening a variety of things and start then shooting down the night goblins with my archers. He then again repositions his infantry for the charge, as if I'm gonna charge. Come on, it's too big of blocks yet. I still gotta do it. I believe he yeah, I think he just loses another couple of wounds from you know uh, an onslaught of shooting. My Spiteful Torrent just does nothing, kind of goes away, which is kind of a pain. These guys start moving back wards things. I've shuffled my Blade Guard across, and my Way Watchers and Way Stalker are kind of just still here, plinking things off. But yeah, he then places a Pillar of Fire just with the hopes of, you know, doing some damage, and expecting a charge, which I of course do not give him. Instead, I had just about enough movement to go here with 10 inches of fly, and then use my lumbering to pivot 90 degrees and lay a flame breath, or the soporific breath, onto the orcs, taking down a few models, which is nice, and just about again evading these charge arcs, uh, which is good. In hindsight, though, I really do think that I possibly should have just gone here. I don't think getting 4 models is worth it, and had I maybe just blown to here and definitely gotten a charge off against these, that would have been way better, because you know he's still here. He's my or sorry my spellweaver's still here. She's still like 300 points, just like completely at mercy of these doom divers, right? So I should have played to preserve these points, accepting that I'm probably never going to chase down these guys anyway. If anything, I could maybe get wounds off the night goblins and get the stuff within here, but I should have focused down one of these, and because these guys are the ones that I could shoot, I should have just shot them, fully ignored these, gone for this, which would have preserved these points. I don't know how many points Doom Divers are, probably like 60 or 70 max. But still would have been, a charge in, kill it in my turn, overrun, kill that the next turn, would have been super easy. These guys are still not doing anything. I've got enough evasion here that I can just pop out behind the woods. I can't get charged, and then like march behind the hill and stuff to keep hiding from them. Um, put my Glade Guard as sacrificial blockers or whatever if I needed to. But yeah, I think I just saw this opportunity to get the Flame Breath and got too greedy with it. I think that was the wrong play. On to his turn then, and believe this is his turn 5. He goes and casts a magic missile on me. And now, what I did here, again, probably the wrong move. I don't know if a charge would have been possible here, but it's definitely not possible from here, because what he did is he cast a magic missile, and I used that as an opportunity to evasive and reposition to here. I don't really know why I faced this way and not straight on. I think I just wanted the opportunity to do other things, but if I'm going to evasive to here, it's so I can get this flank charge in, right? So I do that, which works pretty well for me to kind of set up that. But again, I do think this is the misplay on my end. On my turn, believe this is turn 5. I take that flank charge. He challenges out with the goblin with the one-hit wonder. I pass my ward save, so everything's fine. But I do manage to basically, I think my thought process at the time was, if I can hold these guys up, stop these guys moving forward, this gives me the avenue to go and capture this baggage train, which would have been huge. So I start doing that. I'd also gotten the shaman here with the Sword of Sorrow and shooting, so that was good. And then yeah, I believe I started, again, another couple of wounds off here, but my Spellweaver has taken wounds and is not looking overly great. I give ground because of static combat res with the dragon, which is fine. I keeping the fight. He gets magic missile or something off, bringing these guys down to 5, which I don't think is going to be then enough to start taking out this baggage train, which is sad. He moves this forward, threatening this guy desperately. This keeps continuing. At this point, we're kind of just playing out these turns. I take out the last Squig Hopper. He takes out my Spellweaver with his Doom Divers. Way Watchers are no more. Night Goblins are no more. I managed to just basically start chomping through them as much as possible. And at that point, it was the end of the game. So, really, I've got not a lot of experience from this game. I would have liked to have gotten more experience, actual experience with the Wardancers. Now, that said, I did learn the hard way that I should probably just always keep them in skirmish formation anyway, even if they have a very clear, straightforward charge and job. Against templates, just, that's 2, 3, maybe even 4 model sets that are getting hit if I'm in skirmish formation. Those Doom Divers are the devil. I really, really, really liked having the dragon on a 4+ ward. I just think that gave me a lot more confidence to just throw him into things as needed. And really, the only thing I have to worry about now is him losing combat and breaking and fleeing if I put him into a big block. Again, that was also probably a mistake I made in this. I gave ground here, but there's a world in where I I fully break and flee, right? Because he's got so much unit strength. So, which actually may have even been something that we did wrong. So I do think that I should have gone after the devil and gone for those Doom Divers. But still, I really like the 4 up ward on the dragon. I think I'm going to be running with that. I don't miss the 4-hawk at all. Long live the level 3 power lore horse. I think she's great, and that's a really nice build, and having the reserve move bunker is there. I have that in core anyway. It's been a staple in all the lists I've played. I really like those Glade Riders, and now they are just even more powerful by having a blaster caster in there. So yeah, I obviously was very sad to have not gotten my full combo charge of the Wild Riders and the War Dancers and a dragon into something. I think that would have done an insane amount of damage. But, not everything can go my way, so we'll just have to hope for next time. I do need to look at how I deploy my beast packs. This is my first time using them. I should have just deployed them sideways. They're skirmishers, so they can just move that way anyway. And it means that my Wild Riders can just be a little bit closer. It saves them 3 inches or so. And I think just in general, my deployment needs work. So like going back to deployment at the start, again, not to belabor this point, but I do think that had my Wild Riders been been here, except that I'm going to shoot down the Mangler Squig, use my Power Scroll if I need to just really get that out of there. They're only protected by these guys, which my Wild Riders will chew through and up. And I think that would have been a very, very, very different game. Because I can dance around these guys all day. I can put my dragon into the wyvern, that's fine, and I can shoot this other thing down. I've got enough shooting here that would have gotten that. And at the time of deployment, I knew where these were, and I knew what my answers were for them. So I should have just trusted in myself to do that. And don't be afraid. These guys are only 111 points. Don't be afraid to send them on a bit of a suicide mission. If they don't get up the middle of the field, that's fine. That's not what they're here for, and I need to remember that. If this was my unit of 7, I think this would have been a better play, because that's going to chew through most things here. They're not going to survive 22 attacks from them. That's most of their fighting rank gone. Yeah, I think at 111 points, I need to be cognizant of what I'm using them for, and yeah, it's not this basically. So yeah, that is it, I think, for me. Um, as always, I hope you've enjoyed. This was a really, really fun game, and it was so like it was so back and forth. I really thought at the start with losing so many models that I was like, we were joking, be like, oh, well, look, maybe we just re-rack and go again, you know. But getting that charge off against the Wyvern, getting a couple of wounds, and then him breaking, fleeing, and being run down really actually changed the course of the game because suddenly I had control of both of the flanks, and it meant I had a lot more dancing to do, which is great. I do think that my big flaw, as I said, was not controlling that other flank, or gunning for that other flank immediately, and yeah, kind of just trusting in the mobility of the Wood Elves. But hey, that's it. I'm got another game now tomorrow against uh, someone, the winner of the 1,000 point tournament, Saul. So I'm interested to see what he's going to bring. I am working on a list, which, you know what? How long is this video? Okay, super quick spoilers for the next video. But basically, this is the list I'm thinking of and why I'm thinking of it. Basically, very similar core setup, pretty much the same as you've seen. I still go into Swift River Shards, although I think I might now just change these to True Flight Arrows. The main change is, sorry, going with 11 Wardancers, 5 Wild Riders instead. I've got the points, 2 Great Eagles and a Beast Pack. Basically just I want the chaff, I want to be able to deploy well, I want things to be able to rush towards war machines, things like that. Still want the potential damage output from the Wardancers, and then, although I should probably change this to 12, I probably prefer a couple more Wardancers and one less Wild Rider. That would be fine. And then the other change is putting a Stag Captain in there to have Befuddlement of Mischiefs, so that I can identify where I might need support. But also, Great Stag has first charge, and it means that I can be even more versatile with my dragon. Ignore my dragon note out here. It's probably going to go back to the 4+, but it means that I can send the stag and the dragon into a big unit, accept the challenge with the stag, and go to town with the Glade Lord and have a pretty decent chance of winning that combat, which is a nice way of being able to take down some of those bigger blocks and be able to punch a hole through things. So that is currently what I'm thinking. I'm gonna make some adjustments to this now. I still have 4 points to play with this, which is perfect. And yeah, that is it. So as always, thanks very much for watching. Really, really appreciate it. I will be back very soon with a game against Saul, who is playing who knows what. So I'm really looking forward to that game. And hopefully I'm going to get another game in before this tournament. However, if I don't, I will at least, of course, be back covering the 3 games I have at the tournament, which I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, until then, as always, links down in the description for all the other things I do if you're interested. And I will see you soon.